But the thing is, though, it won't trigger me like it triggers Rick.
It's just such nonsense.
Look, it's triggered him now. It's probably triggered him.
It's just such nonsense.
At the end of the day, he's right. If it weren't for Sam, you would never have won Electrician of the Year. Never. And the problem is with Electrician of the Year is that unless you win it this year, that means you're a worse person than you was last year. Welcome to Monday Club, everyone. Here we go again. The crucial head measuring day.
Yes, getting on to that already, are we?
Well, I think we should at least read through the comments because I'm actually quite annoyed about how many comments there were.
I think that we've got to get this disclaimer. And obviously, that the video released today, and we're recording today. Yeah. So we're recording the same day the video's released. So this is actually going to be. We can't announce the winner till next week to give it a week to run, so it's going to seem like 2 weeks. However, James Becker's had a few fair goes. He's found a little loophole, actually.
Yes, he has.
He found a little loophole because I didn't say how many guesses someone could have, only that if you say the same number as someone else, you're an idiot.
He's a slippery northern bastard. Just like
Talking of slippery northern bastards, look at Mark. He's even had a go. Mark's even had a go in the comments. This is purely for sport and not for the prize. I think if Neil stood on his head and licked the wall, he could mark the bottom of a socket on a new build. On that basis, I'm going for 450.
Are you saying my head's Part P compliant?
It could be a useful tool. You could patent that, Neil.
To be honest, it'd be useful if your nose weren't so big, mate. But what are you going to do? If you've got a long tongue, it works.
I just love the casualness of it. Neil's head. Dash 265 millimeters. Cheers for the episode.
There's people in the chat that's gone to 1 decimal point.
Yeah,
like
someone
278.42.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
My 8 meter thing don't go down to 2 decimal points. So
shall we laser measure?
Are we measuring your head this episode?
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, it's very hard to. I did say this on the first episode. So we record a week before the release. So what we're going to do, we're going to measure on this one, but it's not fair to announce a winner on this one because obviously they've only had half a day's worth of voting. So we'll leave the last week's video that we recorded last week. It was released this morning, our time this morning, as we're recording, and we'll announce the winner next week. Yeah.
So when you see this video, the competition is closed. Episode 4, the competition is closed as of this video.
Yeah.
But you would also know and can argue amongst yourself in the comments who the winner was.
Listen, before this, right, check this out. Spencer Henry, hallowed guest from last week. When Neil leans back at 56 minutes, 53 seconds, his head, bottom of his beard is about 5 bricks high. Average height of blocks in the corner are 215 average height. 3 bricks to a block, so 5 bricks at about 358. People going technical.
Mate, Joe Robinson was the best. Joe Robinson applied the science that only Joe could apply to something.
I'm about to read it out. I think it's a bit of an optical illusion. This is Joe Robinson of GSH Electrical.
No. Joe Robinson
Joe
training.
Robinson training. I'll put a little link up to his channel out above us.
Thank you. That's it.
I think this is a bit of an optical illusion. I've got a bit of a long head myself, and I've measured for my own reference. So I'm going with 255 for the length of Neil's head. Thumbs up.
That's just amazing. He's measured his own head to get a comparison to Neil's head.
I think, even Alex has got involved. He's like, Dad, what's the size of your head? I'm like, get out. I know what you're trying to get.
Well, what about so you've got Thomas Haig, 302 millimeters.
Some geezer's got me down as almost half a metre. It's like 475 millimetres. Like, what?
Then you've got Jay Beck. Jay Beck's gone to town. He's done about, I don't know.
He's a slippery monkey, that man.
He needs them. Like he can't afford to buy his own.
Now, I have noticed a slight problem with tonight's episode, actually. I've talked you into recording it so everyone's screen flicks to big screen. Yeah, we're doing that
no, I
tonight?
ain't bothered with that.
That's good because I've just realised that everyone else's screen flicks except yours. So if you do that, your screen will just remain small. No one will see you for the whole.
Perfect.
So that doesn't work.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'll tell you one
Well,
thing. I've
his
got to
head
do.
will still look the same size, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you see
I'll be
it
in
on everyone else's
precaution.
webcam, wouldn't you? You'll pick it up.
Mark,
on
you
everyone
can
else's.
shut up, right? Because last week you didn't say diddly squat all bloody episode. Now you've turned up here cussing me off for the first 10 minutes.
He's had a beer, mate, and he's fucking.
I was
ready to
giving
go, isn't he?
Spencer his chance to shine. That's all.
Now
This is
listen,
Ed.
listen. We need to get serious. We've got a serious topic tonight. Serious
No,
basis.
we got to do his head first.
Oh,
Before
we've got to
we move
measure
on,
his
I've got
head.
to say something
Right.
to.
No, measure your fucking head, will you?
No, I've got to say to the audio people, because one thing I've noticed in listening back, we ain't very good at giving the audio signals to the visual only stuff. So if you do listen to this audio, do apologise. We'll try and be more conscious of giving you some audio clues so you can enjoy it on Podbean.
I'll be honest. If you ever listened to Jan Silent Bob Get Old, their whole premise is they do a live stage show, but they release it as a podcast, and they've got clips in there that you'd have to see to understand, but it works. And
Listen, I've had enough. I've had enough of this talk. I've been waiting for weeks when I first come up with this.
Well, 1 week.
No. Like this goes
I've
back.
been putting it off for about 4 weeks.
This
Yeah,
is
he's
a
been playing up
brainchild,
for-
is it?
So this is something I'm really excited to see.
Come on in.
The
Let's see.
length of
Let's see.
Neil's head.
Hold on. What are you going for then in this conversation? Now,
Yeah.
I'm going for 321 millimeters.
Well, I
hang on,
originally
let me
said
write
400.
this down.
I'm going with it.
So we've got Ricky here.
Let's have a serious guess.
You
I'm
said
gonna
450.
I know about that.
How can you have a serious guess about measuring someone's head? How can you turn that serious?
This is just such.
310 mil.
Oh, he's gone close to Vic.
I'll
Neil,
win
what's your
400.
guess? So Sam's 400. But Neil, what's your guess on your own head? Now you've lived with this head for how long?
Well, I can't really see my own head in true scale,
Yeah,
can
but
I?
how long have you had this head?
For those listening, Sam is almost being sick with laughter.
He's gone twice. I'll ask again, Neil. How long has this head been attached to your shoulders? So you've had it a long time.
All my life, Rick. How long's your head
which
been
is-
attached to your shoulders?
I was trying to get your age, but obviously
38.
it's 30, so 38 years. You should have a pretty good guess of the ridiculous size of your head.
You used to be in demolition with that head.
Come
I
on,
really don't want to do this in case it's massive.
we've got to measure.
Come
We've
on.
got to measure it. The
Oh,
thing is,
okay,
it's-
right.
The trouble is just to get this to Clem. It's always going to be massive because no one else is measuring their head.
What I'm going
So
to do,
you've
I'm going
definitely
to put
got
the
the
tape
biggest head
measure.
here.
So for those on the audio, I'm going to tape measure against my head. I'm going to run my finger down to when the guys say I'm happy, and then I'm going to turn it around and let us know.
No,
where
go
it
up
is.
more. Go up more. Come on, all the way up. You got up.
We said hairline, didn't we?
No,
Hold on.
bollocks.
If
Oh,
go up, keep
Mark wished he
going.
could do that with his hair, didn't he? Right, we happy?
No, more.
Oh, shut up. That's my hairline.
More. There.
Yeah, back there. Go on then. Yep, stop.
Yeah.
No, up. Yep, go for that. That's the bottom of your beard, really. It's gone half a metre. Cunt's gone half a metre.
Go on, what is it?
The moon, I'm over the moon.
Go on.
What is it?
You got a fucking moon-shaped
250
head.
millimetres. Yes.
Wow, Mark wins.
250 millimetres. So who's going to be... Sam, have you got the comment section up? Who's looking like... Is anyone looking close at the minute?
Well, yeah, James Beck, he guessed everything about
He's
that.
disqualified.
Neil's
Everyone else
head.
is way
rich.
over.
Pez 2987.
Nah, James Beck goes closer. What was James Beck's first comment?
245.
Oh. He's got it with a 245.
Imagine if you've just watched this. Imagine if you've just gone, you know what? I'm a respectable electrician. I fancy learning something. I'm going to log on to episode 4 of the Monday Club.
I feel like we shouldn't have opened with this. This should not have been the opening thing for this episode.
always gonna
It's
be a
typical
great
Sam.
picture,
He gets all excited. It has to be now. I want to measure Neil's head now.
Do you know what I feel like we should do? All get a tape measure and measure our heads.
Nah, that's.
Imagine if one of your heads was longer than mine.
I mean,
Pete marks him with a shot. If we're going
while
back.
I think, I feel
Fair
like
comment,
it's a
fair
fantastic idea. We would literally would be half an hour in measuring heads. We won't have done anything to do with electric anywhere. We'll just be, and then obviously once your tape measures are out, are you going to stop with your head?
Is it, though?
Probably not
How
with the one on
funny.
your shoulders.
I can't.
No.
I honestly, right, with our drop-off rate on YouTube, I am so gobsmacked anyone's even lasted to see an hour part of the show to get that, and to see the amount of comments. I must admit, all things aside, I'll sacrifice a bit of myself for that because I love seeing people loving it.
But if you're going to do that, mate, you might as well chop a bit of your head off the fucking size.
And you know what? It's only so no one else, as far as I know, can sit there and say Joe Robinson's had a guess at the size of my head.
Apparently, a little bit of insider information, Joe Robinson apparently does a really good impression of me, but he won't show anyone except Gary Hayes.
Joe Robinson was 255, by the way.
Good shout. Good shout again.
Wouldn't it be annoying if he was that good that he got that right as well?
Come on, using science.
That would be annoying, wouldn't it? What was Spencer? How far was he off?
He was 215.
Far too generous.
Well, are we getting serious now? Are we done with this
Yeah,
segment?
well, we're
So
done with
what's
that.
next?
Listen, next week we'll announce the winner. And quick reminder, what's the tool they're getting? Bosch. For those listening, it is, what's it called?
Well, it's not Bosch, it's Nipex. It's one of these newfangled 5-in-1s. They are the business. I love mine. Then we've got a whole heap of stickers that are going out. So, yeah, it's all good.
Sweet. All right, we'll put that one to bed. Are we doing another competition later?
Should we do
Yeah,
it?
but not today. We'll do it next week.
Oh, I'll do that one next week then. All right, cool. So, what's been going? Sam, how was your last week?
Do we need to talk about it? Listen, I'm happy to talk
Days off,
about
we
it,
call it.
but I think we probably shouldn't. It's been a stressful week. It's not been a great week for everyone involved. However, some good things have come out of it, haven't they?
Yeah, I was playing. You know that.
But
So was Sam last week.
yeah, I don't know if playing is the correct term. But the good thing that's come out of it is, Neil, would you like to announce that you are now officially a decision maker within EGTE?
Yeah. Well, you just did.
He is. The official title is the senior bench warmer.
Senior bench.
in fact-
I
in
get to
fact-
choose the bench warmers now, don't I?
I'll tell you what. You could be a finisher. You could be an Eddie finisher.
I know.
Finish me off anytime.
I think he could be the new captain of the ship to a certain extent.
Nah. Oh, listen. This is always a bit of EGT. Always associated with used two fellas, and rightly so. Produced it for nothing. I'm just happy that hopefully I can offer something to the pie. I'm really, really excited. Really excited.
We asked Mark first, and he blew us out, so we had to ask Neil.
I want nothing to do with you two. Jesus Christ. Do I look mental?
To be honest, we're talking
Go
about
answer that.
Well, you sound mental, but
Mark and Neil was, we asked for David Savory, said no. Bundy said no. James Beck said no. Anyone with half a bit of clout said no, and then we settled on Mark and Neil, and then Mark said no. Apprentice 1-to-1 fame and all of that. He said, "Who the fuck are you?"
But does that mean I've plucked Neil from obscurity and made him something?
I'm sure it does in your own head.
but the thing is, though, it won't trigger me like it triggers Rick.
It's just such nonsense.
Look, it's triggered him now. It's probably triggered him.
It's just such nonsense.
At the end of the day, he's right. If it weren't for Sam, you would never have won Electrician of the Year. Never. And the problem is with Electrician of the Year is that unless you win it this year, that means you're a worse person than you was last year.
Yeah, I think. Obviously, listen, I've spoke about winning this award a few times now, but there is some truth in that. Obviously, if I won it for the union stuff, then I've always said it's a 50-50 thing. Put your fishing rod away here. I'm humble. And if you actually go and watch me the GSH video, I explain the award very well. It never meant that much to me, in all honesty, because
Rick, why do you take this so seriously?
because it's important.
He's brought it right down.
It's important.
Oh,
It's like when I talk about the IET, isn't it? I've been a certain humbleness to it.
Electrician of the Year can't even get in the IET. Shocking.
Fellowship my ass. It's all jealousy, mate. It's all fucking jealousy. Listen, we've got to get serious. I've got a serious conversation. It's not a long one. It's a short one. Lee Ward on Twitter earlier come up with a fair suggestion of changing 13 amp fuses in Spurs to 3 amp. So they never, if they overload, they pop. So, a safer feature.
Isn't this just for fan isolators only? I'm not sure.
Boilers as well, I guess. Anything, if you stick a 3 amp fuse in a spur, it's never going to be an issue, is it? If you have a 13 amp in a spur, it could be an issue if you don't fuse it down.
It's going to be an issue for the manufacturer, and I keep getting people that don't know any better take it back going, it just keeps blowing.
So this is the thing. So we went back and forward. I think it's a bit extreme, in all honesty. But Mark come up with a really good idea, to be fair, Mark, and I think it solves everything. And the idea was...
Don't put a fuse in them at all. What's the point? You can choose as the installer what needs to be in it. Job done.
Is that not... That's just... If you're going to go down that road of anything, remove them. That is the smartest thing I've ever heard in my life, because then all the emphasis is on the installer. If you stick them on fuse in, it's definitely your fault because it started with no fuse. I think it's quite smart. Thoughts?
I carry a handful of different types of fuses in my tools precisely for that.
So the point was, if you forget to fuse it down, which can happen to the best of us.
Isn't it like one of them things that you think of when you put in a switch fuse spur?
No, I think so.
I don't think I was ever, in the first 10 years of my career as electrician, was ever told to dip down fuse.
See, that's what happened with. So when I was doing the rewires on the house, one of the things we done properly when we was doing these rewires when I was an apprentice on Hounslow Homes contract, is we always had a load of these 3 amp fuses to fuse them down, and it's just something we always done.
That shows the standard, didn't it? Because when Mr. QS walked around after, he obviously always checked it had been fused down, and that was a pulling thing.
It must have been, yeah.
They didn't test the fucking places. they never.
No.
Well, what you said, the testing was done in the van on the way home.
Yeah, it was every single time.
We definitely changed all the fuses to 3 amps.
Yeah, that was one of my jobs.
But it's funny how the industry's gone a bit funny about fusing things appropriately. I'm not even because why should it be on us as electricians to appropriately fuse an appliance?
It's a good question.
If you put that spur in and it's designed to do an appliance you know about, so for instance, when you put a spur in for a boiler, it's not going to do anything else but power that boiler, is it? So
well, yeah, it could power another boiler when it's changed.
It could do, but if you're the installer, you make sure it's the appropriate fuse fitted for that boiler. Then you put 3 amp in.
Yeah, I'm saying it's a perfect world, but I'm just trying to think. And this is a question I'm thinking about now as we're talking. Why would it be on us as a fixed installation to fuse appropriately something that's inevitably going to be changed, tested in a factory by someone else? Why should we be liable for that? They should fit their own internal fuse that suits their equipment.
Yeah, I agree, Neil. Typically, we're putting fuses in to protect the supply cords to those equipment. That's what normally happens with a fuse spare or a plug top. So I would like to think, and it do happen in boiler manufacturers, they do have internal fuses. So, I mean, it's always in the instructions. We've all seen it, fit a 3 amp fuse. But should that really be on installers? I don't know.
Is it?
So one of the things I've done... Sorry, mate,
go on.
One of the things I've done in my shed of excellence, is definitely not. Is
no Wi-Fi extender?
Well, I'll get one when I've got some dough. So all I've done is bring power to it, and then I've fused down from the power to the lighting.
Quick, think if I've done it correctly.
I'm not sure I've changed a fuse. Should we see?
Have you used that
tester
on your wiring?
Should we do this live?
I'll mind you the lights go out, wouldn't they, if I pull it out?
Oh, they're nice. Get out. But my point stands is that I don't recall many. Oh, what's 13 amps? 13 amps will easy cover 1.5. Will it cover 1 mil?
When do we use 1 mil flex realistically?
Not very often.
Most people doing rewires. Well, I say most people. I know quite a few that will just buy 1 mil instead of 1.5 to do
power what?
To do lights.
No, we're talking about stuff spurred off a ring main, really, aren't we? Or off a radio or something like that.
I'll just sit this one out, shall I?
By the way, if you know people that are wiring a lighting circuit on 1 mil. That's not great.
It's
1 mil
always-
down to switches, but 1 mil circuit on a.
It's proper common though. I mean, I wouldn't say common, but there's a substantial amount of people that I know. I don't know personally, but I've seen mentioned on quite that they will install with 1 mil to save. I don't even know what's the difference between 1.5 twin.
I can't imagine it's much.
About £2.
Well, it's
It's the same as people that buy double brand, isn't it? Buy double brand TNE rather than brown and blue.
On the railways, it's 1.5 is stipulated as the smallest allowed on any circuit.
Yeah, but I like that. I like that double brown cable.
Nah, why?
I love using it.
So how do you mark up the switch line?
They're actually one.
Use a bit of brown sleeving, didn't you?
No, one brown is usually a little bit lighter than the other brown.
Is it?
9 times out of 10, it's always a different colour.
I always nicked everything. Everything was nicked. I was always taught to nick.
To be fair, well, like me last week. To be fair, it's you may have 2 different shades of brown, but it's not going to be as clear as brown and sleeve blue, is it?
It's the Irish T&E that's the best. The internal earth comes.
The blue instead of brown and blue, it's blue and brown.
Well, yeah, but they have the green and yellow sleeved in the twin and earth. You don't need to oversleeve it.
So it's like a flat flex.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which is really what
I never understood why they didn't put sleeving on the CPC in T&E anyway.
Because it's not a current carrying conductor.
Yeah, but it's still got to sleeve it, innit?
It's cheaper. How would you strip it if it had sleeving on it? Like if it was, if you could have pull it out.
You'd use the Nipex multi-tool. What's it actually called, that thing?
Listen, mate, they're not sponsoring the show. Behave.
I'll show you what I would use.
Get out of here.
Yet.
It sounded like such a plug.
Yeah, they've given this away for us today. So
this is what I would use.
What is that?
T&E stripper. Come on.
Try not to sound any more canned, Mark. What is that you have there, Samuel?
It's the business. Trust
Who makes
me.
that, Sam? Who makes that?
Where can you get it?
Ideal,
I need one.
Ideal. And you can get that at Ideal EMEA.
To be fair, with guys that tall, I've done my garage. So I've done a bit twin and earth. I have not touched twin and earth before I've done my garage I can't remember the last time I touched twin and earth. And I bought a set of them, and my God, I was like, where are these? If I had a set of these when I was an apprentice, it'd be bloody awesome. They were so good. No damage to the conductors.
Just goes to show that they're designed specifically for fat, useless men.
I'll take that. I'll take that all day.
I need some. Mark definitely needs some. I need some too. I've not got none.
So is the preferred? Is the textbook? I mean, you guys have been to GSH. I've never been, but is the preferred method of teaching still appropriately without them tools a electrician's knife?
Yes.
So you know what I mean. Straight away, you're taking away a knife from a tool, a hand tool.
Actually,
which has got to be a good thing.
I don't know about electrician's knife for T&E. It's an electrician's knife for SWA because when I'd done my AM2, that's what they gave me.
What, electrician's knife over a Stanley knife?
Yeah,
you're not allowed to stand it.
Not allowed to stand knife at college.
And do you know what?
You're allowed a knife with like a 4 or 5 inch blade, but you're not allowed a standing knife with a 1 inch blade.
Yes, exactly that, mate. Yeah, and them blades are huge, aren't they? Electrician.
Can someone explain that to me? Because
no idea. I guess actually they're considered easier to work with, less likely to slip. Stanley blade is slippy do yourself. With one of them blades, well, I mean, the one I used at the AM2 was like a spoon, so no one's going to come to. Literally, I had to solve, AM2s, everything's timed. I'm stripping my SWA with this electrician's knife. I had to wait for the geezer to sharpen it. It was that blunt. So I could go back and actually strip the outer sheath off the SWA. It was a nightmare.
But we've all slipped with a Stanley knife, haven't we? We've all slipped with a Stanley knife.
I've never, ever slipped with a Stanley blade.
Got the scars. I've done it.
Yeah, I've never done that.
So I don't know if I'll slip, but
yeah, look.
Normally you just do good practice and you're just away from your body, aren't you? That's what you should be doing.
I've actually done that doing a carpet towel, if I'm honest.
I slipped with a drill once, and that's probably harder to achieve. Drill my hand. That was when I was before I was an electrician, to be fair.
Or you get one of them drills that don't slow down quick enough, so you get auger bit going through. You put it down, rips up your jogging bottoms, and eats up your thing.
I was working with a guy once. He had a 110 like SDS drill, but not an SDS with a hole saw in it, drilling a bit of metal trunk in, and its head was like right next to it, and it slipped and caught his nose and took the edge of his nose off, mate. That was I had to go back and glue it back on. I think that was
No,
You just see it
once
happening.
when I was,
You see him doing it, and you see where his head was, and obviously a big massive drill anyway with a little hole on him because he didn't have a little combi, and what? And that is obviously that was a 110, so they keep spinning, didn't they? They don't slow down.
Yeah, I had one similar to that. So it was like I was up in this sort of near the ceiling trying to get through maybe the last joist. I can't remember exactly what it was, but as it caught and locked, I was punching myself in the face, and I'd done it about 5 times before I could release. I was just going, "Buff, buff, buff, buff,"
Yeah,
before I could
that
release
is
the
awful.
trigger.
That is awful.
It's funny how drills can get you.
I've got another conversation piece, something I see today actually, and I was meant to talk to someone at my company about it, but I just completely forgot. Now, I went under a staircase, and under the staircase was the DB.
In a dark house in a dark street.
And there was a skeleton and a spider. Now, so what they've done, the beams.
You open that trap door.
Yeah, it was one of them staircases, that goes up, turns back on itself.
Yeah.
So underneath, they have
Normal
beams
staircase.
supporting the stairs. Well, no, staircases go just up, don't they? Like your head just goes straight up. Right.
Rick gets touchy, doesn't he?
Anyway, listen to the story. They drilled out the beams under the stairs and passed the cables through them. Now, from a structural point of view, I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's a staircase and you drilled straight through the beam supporting it. Now, you know what I mean? But electrical-wise, what did you think of that? You're passing cables through beams under a staircase. Bearing in mind that regs say if you've got a board under a staircase, that's codable. Should be plastic, it should be metal, and that sort of stuff.
I think it's
What we're saying
codable to
about
have
drilling out cables and passing.
It's not codable to have a fuse board under a staircase.
Well, a plastic fuse board, they say C3, didn't they?
Yeah,
what the
regardless of
code
position.
maker says.
Regardless
And if it's
of
thermal damage, then it goes to C2, whatever.
Mm.
Regardless of what you think about that, we're just going off of what the NAPIC book says. What did you think about the cables passing through the beams?
It depends where they're drilled. If they're drilled in accordance to the on-site guide specifications.
But that they talk about loft beams, and they don't talk about beams under fucking staircases.
Yeah, but I don't think if you're doing like a 20 mil hole through like a bit of a 6x6, I don't know what size the beam is. What was it?
I don't know, 4x4. Probably less than
4x4.
that.
I don't think
Less
you're
than
really
that.
going
4x2 maybe.
to.
You're probably not going to drill through a 4x4, are you? You're going to notch it.
Mark's about to come in with some sensible answers here. I can see it.
Yeah.
No, I just think 4x2 is a bit small to be putting holes in anyway. But in terms of it being under the stairs and cables passing through, I don't think there's anything you can really do to code it on an EICR. It'd be more building regs non-compliance.
Yeah, I mean, it weren't an EICR I was there for anyway. It was just something I looked at and I thought it's an interesting thing to sort of look at, because it's something outside the box. Should you be passing cables through? Bearing in mind, you didn't need to drill through the beams. You could have just stuck a bit of metal strapping up, you know what I mean? The old galvanised strapping and put that through, or the rubberized.
Oh, actually, I don't know if that's allowed anymore, is it? That galvanised strapping, you're not allowed to use it.
It was never allowed. So my understand, I mean, it's something I want to go back to. So hold that thought, Rick. It's something I want to go back to that. But with regards to are you talking about protecting cables against premature collapse in the event of a fire, Sam?
What the galvanised strapping? Yeah.
So my understanding is, and I've definitely read this, but I'm struggling to remember where I read it. And I will find it, and if I can find it, I'll chuck it in the show notes and try and give people a link to that information.
Sure, no one cares.
They might do.
I haven't.
Sorry?
I haven't.
The intention of the reg is to meet a fire rated clip that meets BS 5839, which is the same standard as the clips that would be used to fix a fire cable, or an FP200, FP400, whatever they are.
E-clips.
Yeah. So that and obviously the galvanised banding is not tested to that standard. So strictly speaking, they wouldn't meet the intent of the regulation. I will try and find exactly where I've read that and share it with everyone. So
really,
I'm not just talking nonsense.
It just needs to be tested.
Well, it needs to meet a standard of, because I mean, what's galvanised? Is 0.01 of a millimetre galvanised banding going to stand up to a fire? It's just galvanised banding. There's no testing procedure there to say
you can
this
always
going to
flatten out a
provide.
P-clip, though. You can always flatten out a large P-clip and use that. I've done that before.
Yeah, I
That's
don't think that would be. If we're talking about perfect world scenarios, I think the minute you start misforming any sort of metal, not to manufacture.
In fact, I think you can get flat. I think you can get them flat P-clips anyway.
Yeah, you can do. Yeah,
you can.
But for the purpose of this, I mean, maybe I'm going to cause controversy here, because if you're talking about cables under the stairs, and the regs might say you need to support them against premature collapse, but in all seriousness, where are they going to go? They're going to go on the floor, aren't they? No one's going to be climbing under the stairs. So I'm sure to regulation, yes, we should be supporting them for whatever.
I was talking about more generically. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
no one. Yeah. No, this is where things like code breakers and best practice guides need to be used as guidance. I know we've said this a lot over the episodes. It's like, you can't just say it's a blatant C2, because if a cable's clipped along the wall, 6 inches from a wall in plastic tie wraps, is that the same as 1,500 cables across a main entrance to a block of flats? Of course it's not. So it's under a staircase. Who's even going under there in the event of a fire?
Quick, let me run into the staircase and back out again. Hope I don't get tangled up in fallen cables. It's so dumb.
This is the trouble with regulations, because if you follow them, you've got to do it. You've got to make sure they can withstand an hour of whatever temperature it is. I think it's 500 or 600 degrees.
Is there even a standard for that stipulates all this?
No, there was the IET. When the IET done that, we shared it a little while ago. They've done a few tests on different things like clips and whatever. I think they measured it around 600 degrees.
That's
roughly,
right.
Or maybe 500 degrees. I can't remember, Mark.
But wasn't the full set of tests non-conclusive?
No, it wasn't. It was conclusive. But when you look at the temperature that fires average at in a household, they average at about 1,000 degrees. So measuring to 600 degrees, really, a little bit. It's the only test we've got to go on. There's been no other studies done. But yeah, ultimately, some tests, it was pretty much the same conditions, and it would fail on one test and pass on another. So it was a bit ropey. I mean, not ropey, because it was the only test they could conduct. But yeah, if you're not ever going the average temperature of a fire. I mean, the big problem with this regulation is the only thing they had to hand at the time, obviously, when they was going, right, we need to come up with a solution. It can't just be on escape routes anymore. It's got to be everywhere. But what standard can we look at? Someone must have just had the fire regs next to them, because we'll just use that. We'll use that. That regulation does it. Saves us doing anything. We use that one. And if it's tried and tested, I
don't fall out of that. If it's tried and tested and works, that should be what we do. That's we should be doing.
You can't take what you use, stick a fire alarm system in, and then put that into a domestic house and say we need to meet that standard. It's a bit.
You're right. The difference between the two standards is that in a fire alarm, the cable.
It's 2 hours, I believe, isn't it?
It depends on the fire risk assessment. It really does depend on the fire risk assessment. But in terms of a fire alarm needs to continue working. That's the difference. Yes. So it's not just against premature collapse. It's to. I'm going to have to remind. What's the terminology? It's the something like the vital circuit. I can't remember the exact terminology. I have to remind myself, unless someone else can remind me. But the signal needs to be constant.
The fire alarm needs to keep sounding.
Yes, so it's different to premature collapse, because basically you could have a metal cable tie every maybe 2.5 meters for that to stop falling, but that is not sufficient to be securing a fire alarm to continue working, because the signal needs to carry on. So it needs to be, I think 450, don't quote me on that, I'm going off the top of my head. I think it's about 450, it seems to be the thing for fire alarms, because it needs to continue the signal. Critical signal path, that's what it's called. It needs to carry the critical signal path at all times. That's the difference between, so you get a lot of electricians I hear that will say, well, that's what fire alarms do, but fire alarms have to continue working during a fire, whereas we are protecting cables against premature collapse, which is a completely different thing. If it doesn't work, no one cares. So they're the two different things we need to think about.
So can I ask a quick question then? So what is the actual, hold on one sec. What is the actual width we should be securing electrical cables against premature collapse.
Is there anything in the guide for that?
Mark?
Because everyone goes, oh, it should be like 1,200.
Mark's
No, I know
like,
this-
well, I think...
Let him
It's
talk.
I know
about-
there's
it's-
something
it's-
for like saddles, isn't there, on conduit and all stuff like that that would
Listen,
blow
let
your
him
mind.
talk.
I think it's about 1,000 mil or so, isn't it? So roughly speaking, you don't need it along the full length, obviously, because it's a waste of money and expense on materials. But you do need to get them in there. 1,000 mil is springing into my mind, but I'd have to read the regs and see.
That's exactly 4 times the length of my head.
That's going to come in handy next time you're putting some fire clips up, Neil, isn't it?
Yeah, my answer is I don't think there is a maximum or minimum. It's about using a bit of common sense and going, you know what, if there's a fire. Personally, as a business, we install stainless steel tie wraps as standard, fire clips as standard. The time it's going to take to sort out what we're doing here, I was 3 or 4, every 4th one we're going to do this. You know what? It's a waste of time. It's going to cost us more money in the future. We're going to have to use twice the amount of storage in the van, twice the amount of storage in the stores. We just keep that as standard and crack on.
Good move. Makes sense.
Lord Largehead himself has spoken.
But if we're finished on that subject, I really want to talk about what Rick alluded to earlier in terms of his staircase thing and where the electricians regulation 7671 crossover with certain other standards and how I had discussions today. I've had discussions. I put a post on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago in terms of where we stand with domestic fire alarms. So I'm going to ask an open question. You've probably all seen this post. You go and do an EICR in a property. Rick, you do social housing, so guaranteed there's lots of smoke detectors you come across.
Yeah.
You notice that the smoke detector is not working. The wiring is fine, the circuit is fine, it tests fine, but the smoke detector does not work. What do you do? And I want each one of you to answer this.
I'll replace it, but we're contracted to do that.
Sorry, in terms of a report, a condition report, what do you do?
On a condition report, I wouldn't mark it on the EICR. In fact, I would mark it on the EICR, but that's because that's all we've got to hand back to the client.
Yeah, how would you mark it?
C3 smoke alarm. Well, I would, for our contract, if I wasn't going to change it then and there, that is what I would do. I would do it then and there.
We're talking about someone's just asked you to go in, do a report and tell me what's there. No remedials.
Yeah, for my contract, I'd put it on a C2 for a smoke alarm not working. But I wouldn't put it on an EICR normally. I'd just put a report back to the client, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Imagine I'm the client now. I'm asking you, I want you to do a report and tell me I ain't paying you for no remedials. I want you to do a report. That's what this situation is that.
All right, I'm going to say C2 on an EICR, if that's the case.
Samuel?
Come back to me.
Yeah, good
you
answer.
want to see what Mark's got to say. Go on then, Mark.
Yeah,
I'll go with my answer at the end.
I'll give my answer. And this is just a gut feeling. I honestly don't know the answer. And that's just me being honest. I would put further investigation.
Why? You know what the problem is.
No, you don't know what the problem is.
He told us the cables, the wiring's okay.
Okay, instead of arguing, Sam, why would you go further investigation? What's your thought process behind that?
Because
sorry to jump in. Sorry.
It might just be it might be something simple in the actual unit. So you might just have to change a battery out or something. Although it doesn't work off a battery, but it might be causing an issue. You need to look at the thing, really, the actual unit before you can make a judgment.
That makes sense, actually. Yeah, that makes sense. I can see why you went with it. It don't make sense on a report, but it makes sense why you justify what you said. Well done. Touch her in the head.
That's all Sam wanted. Is a well
That's
done.
proper patronising, isn't it? Sorry, sorry, mate. Sorry.
I'll take it.
Tired. It's 9:15. I'm tired. I'm flaking a little bit.
It.
Or Marcus.
Yeah, I would lean towards noting it on the report rather than coding it. So, I mean, what would you do if, say, the bathroom fan wasn't working, or the oven, or the cooker, or a microwave? It's a connected piece of equipment. Because it's safety critical, I would be flagging it as an urgent thing for the building owner to correct. But in terms of the electrical installation condition report, it's non-codable, I would have said.
I think. Sorry,
Three people, three different answers. That is what I love.
I
That's
think,
what makes our industry so unique.
to respond to you there, Mark, the only thing I'd really worry about is that if you don't put a code or you put a C3 or anything like that, they might not do nothing about it.
No.
And that's what concerns me. That's why I'd say if you see to it, and I know they shouldn't be on EICRs, but if you see to it, it's got to be acted on. If you do anything else, C3, I just mentioned it. What if they don't do nothing?
Okay, so why is that your problem, what the client does with the information you give them?
I can understand the ethics of that from Rick's point of view. If he's been in a property that he knows the smoke alarms aren't working and he knows the only way to get them back working is to see to it because the building operator won't otherwise do anything about it, I can understand entirely why you would go down that road.
I do too, and I'm going to be an arsehole client and say, Rick, mate, I've asked you to do a report. You've reported this as a C2. Can you justify that? What code do you think it breaches? Where are you going? I'm not interested in the fire alarm. What code on BS7671 are you coding that to, Rick?
Yeah, that's an impossible conversation because there is no code to code it to. Hence why it shouldn't be on an EICR. So yeah, that mate, it's a very tough sell. The only sell you can say is, look, you've got smoke alarms that ain't working, mate. Well, if I don't report it, I leave it alone, and there's a fire next week, and everyone in the house dies because I didn't report it, that would play my conscience more than what you're saying to me.
I've got a question.
As a client.
I've got a question. Obviously, I'm dumb at this side of electrics, right? I don't know anything really about doing the ICRs and stuff.
I think inexperienced is probably a better word.
No, dumb, right. I will take.
You're not dumb.
So when you're testing an EICR, you're not. So does a smoke alarm count as like an appliance almost? So you're not really interested in the smoke alarm itself. You're only interested in the electrical installation to the smoke alarm.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
So what's the difference between a smoke alarm and say a pendant, for instance, like a dodgy pendant that's not working? Is it like not coding a light bulb, or is it like not coding a pendant?
It's the potentially dangerous and immediately dangerous thing again. So if the pendant was, say, smashed off the ceiling, or a smoke alarm was smashed off the ceiling and you've got exposed live parts, you'd code it accordingly. If the bulb lamp's just out in a pendant, are you going to code that on an EICR? Or are you going to note it?
No, this is what I'm saying. Do you do that or not?
It is an interesting one. If you've got a pendant where the holder's broken, because I see this all the time, the holder's broken, so you can no longer get a lamp into it. It won't hold a lamp. What would you code that? So you can't physically, it's not good anymore. You can't get a light bulb into it.
We're going to that after, right?
Sure.
So, in terms of my answer, who's got a Reg's book to hand?
No one asked my question.
I did have. You know what? I was so prepared.
Hey,
there we go.
No one's answered my question.
What's your question, mate? No, because we're going off fire alarm, so we'll come back to the question.
All right.
I don't want to go too far off and bring everyone back.
Here's a Reg's book. I'll come prepared tonight.
Go to page 227.
I'm glad you're not telling me to look for a Reg here.
Well, they're in number order.
Mine's in the van.
Yes, go on, mate. Right. 560.10.
Read that out.
Fire detection and fire alarm systems shall comply with the relevant parts of BS 5839 series.
Right. So you have a direct code, and this is an open question in BS 7671 saying that part of your checks is to make sure that the fire protection and fire alarm system shall comply with the relevant parts of BS 5839. Does that change anyone's answer?
I don't know the regs of 5839s.
Which is another good question.
Yeah, I've never heard of them. That set
5839 is part 1 is fire alarm systems in a non-domestic dwelling, and part 6 is domestic dwellings. So that splits across both sets. So in our scenario, we're talking about 5839 part 6, which would be a domestic dwelling.
Which still,
if you don't know it, you don't know it.
Yeah, I could Google this, but you tell me.
I reckon my answer's still well right.
Right. So I would say this is my answer that I've come across only recently, delving down this rabbit hole. My answer would be, if I'm not competent in 5839, that I must make it clear as an exclusion to my EICR that I am not testing the fire alarms and the system at all. I'm testing the cabling, and that is where my tests end. If I write on the certificate, I am testing 100% of the installation because of regulation 560.10, I am then saying that I'm testing that the fire detection alarm system meets BS 5839, which, Rick, you have just said you're not competent to do. So, by your own admission, I don't mean to be rude.
Yeah, I don't know any of the regs, you're right.
Right.
That goes on all our EICI documents. We have that on every single one. It's always in there as a limitation. I think
it's an exclusion to what you're covering.
Yeah, I think we discussed this on LinkedIn, if I remember.
Yeah, this is the same quote. This is the same quote. So it's just interesting to. I wonder how many. It's the same with emergency lighting. Is 560.9. It's the same thing to meet 5266. So if I was competent in 5839, I would be testing the coding appropriately. That fire alarm, smoke detector not working, I would code it as a C2, and I'd quote that regulation number. If I was competent and qualified in 5839. If I wasn't, I would be marking it as an exclusion.
How do you get competent in 5839?
Read it. That's pretty much where I would start.
Do CPD, Sam. You go on courses. And for those watching, I'm just showing my certificates, fire alarm certificates. You go on a fire alarm course.
Oh, okay. So you go on a fire alarm course. So tell us about that course. What's involved?
I went on the NRC one, which is I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's good enough for guys that are installing. I think it's perfect for me in a management role to go on and get an understanding of what's required. There's no hands-on experience. If I was sending I wouldn't send my guys on this course. I would send the guys who are installing on a course where they actually have to install something and make sure it's working. But in terms of a management course or someone who's overseeing these sort of works, it's a great course to understand the fundamentals, the design, maintenance.
How do you become qualified? Because you ain't going to get competent from doing a course, are you? You're going to get qualified from doing a course. What if you are a everyday spark? Let's bring it back down to our target audience. If you're an everyday spark, like myself, like Rick, like Mark, well, not really. How do you become qualified first and competent second in that rig? That I can't remember.
5839.
5839.
Well, qualified is, I think, since and this is. Please bear in mind, I'm going on the fly here a little bit.
Well, don't bring a topic and not be prepared.
But that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about domestic fire alarms. I know you're asking me about competence.
Why are you getting triggered?
Isn't there a recent City and Guilds and EAL level 3 course you can do now for fire alarms?
Yeah, there is.
Separate to the FIA stuff that you used to be able to do.
Since Grenfell, I think they're saying that everyone's got to be qualified to level 3, I think, to work on fire alarms. But let's be honest, level 3 is a 5-day course.
A real gutting thing for this actually was I held one of a series of webinars recently, and I logged onto one to do it, and the signal was so bad that nothing was. It kept freezing, so I came away from it. Still got my certificate emailed to me. Never done a course, but that probably would have covered a lot of the stuff here for absolutely free. Unfortunately, the webinar was, I couldn't get involved in it.
But this takes me back to my point. We're not really like you come out with this excellent bit of knowledge that will help electricians, limit their exposure to liability. But what's
exactly what I'm trying to do is trying to protect guys that are going, we've all done it 100 times where we've put 100% of the installation. It happens so often, and it's just like, think twice.
Then there's going to be sparks out there like, oh shit, I didn't know that. Right, I need to know that. Where do they go?
There's so many providers. I'd say go on Google, make sure it's an accredited training provider, make sure they're offering practical experience. The thing is with industrial and commercial is that it's literally, you could forever doing CPD because you've got different manufacturers of fire alarm panels. You need to do their course. It's a never ending thing.
No, but it's about getting the basics in what is it, 5839. 5839, and for your domestic installers, it's 58396, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Part 6 of 5839.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I'm not. I don't know of any specific.
I can tell you a couple of training
Ooh,
providers.
Now, is there? Hold on. Before we go into that, is there a book? Is there a book or
it's
a
called,
guidance online?
It's called BS 5839, Rick.
Yeah, I know that. I get that, right? But where are we buying this book? IET website,
British
Amazon.
BSI.
Right, tell me, where can I get this book now? Sorry, Mark, where?
BSI.
BSI. Because this is the other thing. When it comes to books, a lot of people will go on Amazon. If it's not on there, that's it.
Yeah.
Can't get it.
But all British standards can be purchased from BSI. If you, I think as a membership, I'm a member of BSI. I bet Mark is because he buys a lot of books.
Of course you are.
So,
because you get 50% discount.
Out of interest, what does that say about us? Like, you know, if you've got a smoke alarm that isn't working, if you've got that situation described, I'm guessing it doesn't comply to the regulations of 5639.
5839.
5839. Thank you. We'll get this by the end. So you haven't got to exclude it. You can include it. Like in the case of my contract, it is included. We do that. We sort them out.
Yeah. Well,
It's
also
you
your
shouldn't be
contract,
doing it.
I would be asking my employer.
Why not? Sorry.
Because you've admitted that you're not competent in that area.
Sam's question said we shouldn't be doing it.
Well, you shouldn't be doing it if you haven't got the regs to do it.
Well, no, because we're talking about changing smoke heads that ain't working.
No, but really, if you're doing the EICR around it, what Neil's saying, if you're doing the EICR around it, you should have the knowledge and the accreditations. Well, not accreditations, but you should have like the knowledge that he's talking about.
I think it's the other way around now. So I've not got the competence to talk about the regulations, but I've got the competence to know if it's working or not and if it needs to be replaced.
Yeah, but my point is that if you're going to say it's working in full, then you need to understand the regulations in full to say that it's working in full.
And have the right test equipment to test it correctly as well, as per manufacturer's instructions.
Is it installed properly? There's a little regulation that you can take it from a local liking circuit, but actually
I could get all of this from the instruction manual that comes with an ICO smoke alarm.
That's fine. Then you're the one signing that it meets 5839. If you're happy with that, however you get happy with that is up to you to wrestle with your conscience. Me personally, if I was making money for another company, I would be noting that as an exclusion or asking the company to send me on the appropriate qualifications so I can make that judgment soundly.
Mark, where was you going to say that you could do this qualification or find information about doing this qualification?
I know Premier Training through NAPIT do the qualification. That's the EAL one. And there's Tom Brooks as well from Zeus Training. So he's in Lincolnshire. You might have seen him knocking around on LinkedIn. He runs a 5-day course with a practical training as well. And we're actually hoping to go on that ourselves soon because I've never done a training course in fire alarms and that's something I want to do.
See, this is what we do.
Yeah, I was hoping to go on a training course with them, but then he blocked me. So
the first thing I've done, people might have seen me sort of off camera because I'm taking pictures of things and sending it to my QS. Do you know about it? Let's get on this course because obviously I feel a little bit ashamed that I carry out AICRs and I never knew this.
No, listen,
that's the way I react. So now I've got to take it in.
Right, so
I've got to learn this.
With all due respect, Tom Brooks has blocked me for reasons is to him, but I don't see a better trainer of these systems than Zeus Training, and that's just what I see, and I'll say it as I find it. I think it's up north. It may be an issue, but I think they do travel if there's enough of people to go down there. I was going to get them down in Essex to do us lot, but it's fallen a bit by the wayside, which is a shame. But I would honestly reach out to Tom Brooks. His name is on LinkedIn. And speak to him about it. But I think he's also the president of the FSA, I want to say, but I may be wrong there, so I don't want to go down there. But he's quite well known, he's quite well respected.
And why are we stay on topic? I'm going to move slightly off because obviously something that popped up. I caught on LinkedIn. I can't remember who shared it now, to be fair, but it was
great story. Then
it was. I remember it was like 10 common questions about fire alarm systems. Something along them lines, and one of the questions, I literally, as you scroll through, things pop up, and I noticed one question out of 10, which was, and I posted it on our WhatsApp group. Do you link CO alarms with smoke alarms? Now, to me, if you're asking that question, as I said in the WhatsApp group, you're an idiot.
Ask me.
You're an idiot. Okay. So, obviously, you interlink fire alarms.
I've done all these interlinked fire alarms back in the day when I was doing the thing.
Do you interlink the CO alarm with smoke alarms?
We did.
Why?
Because it acts as another siren, doesn't it? So if there's a fire, then the CO2 alarm can act as a siren as well.
Not CO2. I made that mistake. It's not CO2. That's carbon dioxide. Mate, I was calling them CO2 for 6 months when I started this contract, and I've only just got out of it. I'm going to stop you a whole 6 months of pain.
Thanks, mate.
Now, if the CO alarm goes off, and then that sets the smoke alarms off, how does the tenant know what's going off? And if they go around looking for a fire and don't find one, and then they ring the council up and go, "All my alarms are going off. I ain't got a clue why." And they go,
"At least they're out the house, though, wouldn't they?"
Would they?
At least they're out the house.
It's a good question because
if they're going around looking for a fire and can't find one, why would you leave the house? The alarms are broken, aren't they?
Because the alarm's still going off, so there's got to be a problem, isn't there? So
this is my trouble with it. With all due respect, people can be very stupid. And if they go around looking for a fire and there ain't one, they will sit there just wait for someone to come out.
So do you know what BS 5839 says about that?
No, I ain't got a clue.
Certain manufacturers will say to link them, and certain other ones will say not to. I can't remember the same brand, but there's one of them that chirps in a different siren based on what alarm's activating, so it gives the users a clue as to what's. But that comes down to user training if they're actually going to be given that information in the first place.
Yeah. That's the trouble. ICO do that; they sound different, but the amount of times they go off, you'd never tell the difference between them.
I have Nest in my house, Google Nest, and they do both. So every detector does both, and it lights up a different colour and a different sound.
But what is the actual answer?
I'd have to check 5839.
No, because Vic had the actual answer. Because if you
he doesn't, because he hasn't got a copy of 5839. So he could. I'm assuming 5839 even covers this. I don't even know if it covers.
My answer is I don't interlink CO alarms with smoke alarms ever.
Based on your engineering judgment.
Exactly that. If the CO alarm goes off, it's the CO alarm. That's it. It's the CO alarm every time. It's always next to your boiler.
Doesn't that come down to user training?
It comes down to professional judgment, I think, or engineering judgment.
Well, because like you say, tenants are dumb, yeah. So
no, people are dumb.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So, we've got to be careful. Listen, we've got to be careful here. And for those, we're going through a conversation. We don't know the answer, so no one should be listening to Rick and going, "That is the answer," because you can get multi-testers.
Definitely don't listen to me.
And multi-detectors will pick up multiple things and act the same way. So I would say my hunch.
What is your argument to saying they should be interlinked?
That it's a warning system. How would you alert someone in a bedroom that there's a CO leak downstairs? So you're saying you would
interlink two COs together is what I would do.
So you'd have two COs and two smokes?
Yeah. Different systems.
Really?
One of the siren scenarios I've heard before is if there's been a CO leak in a room and the CO detect a carbon monoxide leak in a room.
It's a CO.
Cheeky bastard. Really? You've put me out my stride now. Anyway, say there was a leak in a certain room and the alarm went off, but the users didn't hear it, and that CO doesn't go anywhere. It goes further around. It travels around the room. It moves with the warm air. And then it passes into an area where there's no CO alarm. But because the other alarms haven't activated, no one was aware that there was any alarm going off at any point. They then breathe that in and die. So the idea is all the alarms go off together. So at least there's some form of investigation. What's actually happening? If there's no fire, users need to be told. There's a good, strong possibility that it's carbon monoxide.
Fair. That's fair. They do actually. ICO recommend that inhabitable rooms all have CO alarms in, didn't they?
They do.
That's what they actually say. So if you're, open burners, whatever, where your boiler is, and rooms that have a lot of living, if you want, for layman's terms. So your living room should have a CO alarm. You could argue every bedroom should have a CO alarm because you probably spend 10 hours in there every night. Or just get a house like mine where they've stuck the boiler in my bedroom, and that works really well. You know, where else
Can we
put
get
it?
Mark's screen subtitled? It does Zoom have that facility.
Dear, this is getting boring now.
I'm not frustrated.
I know,
Mark's triggered now.
I'm triggered. Oh,
I'm only on as the Turk and Northerner. That's the only reason.
Sorry, say that again, mate.
Ah, Jesus. You should have had Vicky on.
I'll tell you what, though, I think is an interesting question. I'd like to understand what the answer is, because what Rick seems to be alluding to, that is, it's the action of the owner of the system upon the event of a CO alarm. Are they going to reset, go back to bed? Reset, go back to bed. Reset, goes back to bed. Oh, fuck it, I'm just going to ignore it now.
Well, are they dumb?
Yeah.
Are the human race as a whole pretty dumb? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
you know
can be.
what? That's what it's all about, isn't it?
But again, I'm talking about one spectrum. I'm talking about social housing. There's a whole world. If you've got a private house owner, you know, you can explain the system to them how it works. They're going to remember. With social housing, you could have 4 different tenants in one place in a year, and if they don't get explained when they move in, which they don't, because earlier on I had to go around and set someone's storage heaters up. They was all switched off on the wall. No one had ever told them how to set up storage heaters. Now it's got a little bit
Worst
cold.
things in the world. Storage heaters are the worst.
They are. The new ones ain't too bad. The digital ones are pretty good, but they're about. I think we pay about £500-600 a pop for them, so they're not cheap.
They're not cheap, and they are pony.
So it's
Another
full
common
circle. Who's going to go away from this conversation we're having and maybe approach their ways to domestic smoke detector coding differently?
Oh, I will 100%. Because one, I always put 100% of installation. Smoke alarms are probably, but I don't. Yeah, we don't.
Do you do the old smoke test spray?
No.
So you don't even know they work.
No, push the button.
I'm going to speak to Tom and get on the course. That's what I'm going to do.
Check that the sensor's in date, which gets done yearly on gas checks anyway. They go around and check all the data, the smokes and CO alarms, and push the button, make sure you're interlinked, and that's it.
And to be fair, that's what this is all about, isn't it? It's trying to bounce ideas off each other.
I reckon that's probably 90% of electricians do exactly what.
Without doubt.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
I'm not coming at it from a view of I've always done it. No way. I'm coming away from I've learned new, and I've gone.
You do sound like you're being a bit of a know-it-all. Oh, look!
No, I like it. I like it.
Look what I've found out.
Well, I put it all out on LinkedIn. There ain't nothing that's new. You know, I was trying to understand, and there plenty of people pushed back against it. People said, "No, I'm sorry, that's excluded. My assessor says it's excluded. Your assessor ain't going to be in court when it all goes wrong.
Yeah,
you've got to be confident in what you're saying."
It's talking about court. I think you're on the wrong podcast. Listen,
you can come away from this. Everyone that's listened to this and feels like me, because last I feel a little bit ashamed that I've been doing EICRs and I don't know about it. But now I'm going to go and learn about it. You know, whether that means me going on a course, I'll mention it tomorrow. I'm pretty sure I'll be on the course next year. Will be as 5'8".
Sweet.
3'9". 5'9".
What about this though?
Yeah.
Linked or not linked?
Not linked for me.
What?
Linked or not linked?
CO to smokes.
Linked for me.
Link 'em.
Linked.
Yeah. I want an alarm going off.
Don't listen to everyone. Who said linked?
I said it first anyway.
I'll go with linked. You've got to remember, Mark and Neil, none of them work in social housing.
Well, I did back in the day, and I linked.
Exactly.
I've never known a CO2 alarm not to be linked.
Yeah.
Say
You
that.
know what I mean? I haven't either.
That's the decision. I'm not being funny. I went to an emergency call out once when the alarms had been going off for 15 hours, and they stayed in there. They've just been going off constant. And obviously, I got there, and there was like, imagine someone 15 hours in of alarm. Imagine like what they look like. Just like I got there on a Sunday morning,
ears bleeding.
Like, can you imagine the eyes and just
Who would sit there for 15 hours? Who would do that?
This is the point, though, isn't it? This is what I'm saying to you.
Dummy.
They sat there for 15 hours while all the alarms were going off. So, judged by that, Lucky
They
one.
would have probably burnt to death should there have been a fire.
And
That's
you
the
know what
point.
they're-
They'll just kill you over there.
The funny thing was, they like the bedroom one, they tried to rip off the ceiling, realised there are cables to it, and left it. And then they'd gone round and like butchered it with hammers, and they hit everyone but the one that was going off. But based on that, and again, it's maybe I need to go back and say, do we need to link them? I can actually do a little button, a little square button, and it comes up what alarm's going off. The trouble with that is people put them and they just chuck them in a drawer somewhere, and it goes off, and they never have them, so they can't see what's going off either.
I think the Nest ones will let you on your phone if you've got the app on. I think that
Again,
might do.
social housing, not going to happen, is it?
True.
I mean,
This is how good Nest ones are. You can actually, if you've got Philips Hue lights, which I have, you can actually, when a fire alarm goes off, they turn all your lights to red.
Yeah,
That's pretty sick.
So do you know? But I mean, if you've got someone, maybe an elderly relative who's hard of hearing, doesn't, what a fucking awesome thing to have done. It was light, all maybe the bedroom light will flash red or something like that. Awesome bit of kit.
Do we have time for another topic?
Yes.
Or not?
Is it going to be in?
It's a really
Northern
quick.
accent?
Yeah, it is, but it's going to be really quick.
we
and it
haven't
comes
mentioned
back-
any tools you should have in your toolbox this week either, which I thought was a shame because I've got my testing bag next to me. But
Yeah, I've got a nice tool
Next
here.
week. Next week. Go on.
We can do the tools if you want, because it's not that interesting, really. If you want to hear it first.
No, go on. Do the topic, then we do 2 minutes.
It was a very, very, very quick one. It was about running cable into Class 2 equipment, something like a photo cell. Would you take a CPC conductor to it?
This is such a good
Quick
one. This
my
has
arse. Quick
been, this
my
has been
arse.
shit hot all week, hasn't it? This has been going absolutely
That's a
Been
brilliant
going
one.
off.
crazy.
It's been going off on this.
Right, so what's the question, Mark? Sorry.
If you was having a photo cell or any other piece of Class 2 equipment,
Yes.
would you take a CPC to that piece of equipment, or would you just run it with 2-car live and neutral and not bother with a CPC? Does it need a CPC there?
Oh, that's 2 questions.
yeah,
That's 2. Does it
It
need one,
is.
or would you run one?
Well, yeah.
Does it
I
need
guess.
one?
Does it need one? Go on, Sam, you take this one first. Does it need one?
No.
Would you take one there?
No.
Okay.
No.
Done.
With a caveat.
Of?
So I've done this the other day.
Yes.
So what's the faces?
That's what
So
Rick done
I've
last
done
week.
this the
Rick
other day.
answered this question.
I
Rick
didn't.
answered this question.
I took. Listen, under the advice of someone in this room, I took a cable from the system up to a photocell, not a photocell, PIR.
Yes.
And it's all plastic. Doesn't require a CPC in there. So I just didn't take up all the cores, and only because I was running low on the cable that I needed for the rest of the installation.
So what did you do? You run a CPC, or you didn't run a CPC?
I didn't run a CPC to it.
So you went from a light fitting, I assume, to out of a light fitting to a PIR.
Yeah.
In 2-car.
Yeah.
Okay. In running conduit or something like that.
Yes.
Like whatever, you know.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Mechanically protected.
Yeah.
Another way.
Yeah.
Okay. Neil.
So my initial is. What was 2 questions?
Would you run?
Would I run one?
Would you run one?
Yes.
And should you run one? No, we won't. Does Class 2 equipment need one, or would you run one?
Right, Class 2 equipment doesn't need one because it's not needed to provide ADS. You don't need to make the circuit breaker trip. That's not the protection we're looking at. Would I run one? Yes, because I believe there's a regulation saying that all points should have a CPC at them.
Okay. Is it me now? I'll be going straight back to Mark.
I can even quote it. Regulation 411.3.1.1 says a circuit protective conductor shall be run to and terminated at each point in wiring and at each accessory, except a lamp holder having no exposed conductive parts and suspended from such a point. So there's a direct code there that you can code to.
That's interesting, though. That's interesting.
That's a dumb rig.
It used to be the case that it was codable to run a CPC to a Class 2 piece of equipment because, as Mark sort of alluded to, I think it was last week with the the earthing of the tray, that you're potentially giving something that doesn't need a physical connection to an electrical system, a connection to an electrical system. But there's the code 411.3.1.1.
So without looking at any codes, my argument was that if you're running something in, if it goes from class 2 to class 1 and you haven't got an earth there, you've got to rewire it in you. So why would you not just run an earth and keep it to one side? That's the way I'd always do it. Without looking, I didn't even know there was a reg for that. I know there's a reg for everything, I get that. But yeah, the way I was always taught, run a CPC, stick it in a Wago. Same as people that cut out, you run a 5-cob and then cut 2 lines out of it, rather than just putting it to one side and Wago in them or something like that.
We don't use Wagos on this show.
Eh?
We don't use Wagos on this show. We use lever connectors from Ideal.
If you want, whatever. I've said it now, haven't I? So I've been using Wagos. It's it's out there. You've got to remember, as good as your Ideal stuff is, you can't buy it out of CEF, and that's where my wholesalers is. I can't go anywhere else, so I ain't got much choice.
Triggered.
I'm just saying.
This is an episode of Triggered. Episode 4.
Anyway,
Triggered.
I was always taught, same as if you've got a 5-cord cable and you're using 3 instead of 5, you should run them other 2 down to earth. Same, that's why I was taught. So if you've got a CPC, don't use it, just put it to one side. It's there, you're future-proofing it, job done. However, if you connect an earth into class 2 equipment, you go down a whole different road of stuff you shouldn't be doing. So if the earth's there and someone goes, oh, someone's not connected to earth, and chuck it in, you've got a different issue. So it's an argument both ways.
Yeah, that comes down to like engineering judgment again, doesn't it? I think. And for me, the regulations, if it was coding it on an EICR and there's no CPC there, it's a C3 for me. But if I was installing a class 2 photo cell that's, say, I don't know, a metre away from a joint box and it's just been clipped direct on a wall, do you really need to be doing it? It seems like a bit of a silly regulation in a way. If you were having to put another piece of equipment in later on, then that's up to the designer and installer at that time to sort it out. And while it is inconvenient that you might have to rerun another cable just to put a different type of accessory in, that's just the way it is.
Now the obvious argument, and one that's going to come out almost instantly after anyone hears this, is why we're not protecting that cable.
Exactly what I was about to say.
Yes.
There's a question.
Yes.
If the cable's got no CPC in it, what's the protection for the cable?
And we've had that come up already, haven't we, with like LED drivers and things like that for under cabinet lighting.
Different scenario. I mean, you hit this one well, Mark, in what you said actually. I'll let you carry on.
So again, that's supplied by the manufacturer with an installed cord. So I mean, it's the manufacturer's instructions would supersede any sort of regulation because we're always told to install the manufacturer's instructions.
Manufacturer instructions.
Yes, I know what you're saying with having the CPC within the cable. So if someone was to strike it, you've got that protective conductor in there.
Especially if it's clipped direct on a wall.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to your installation engineering judgment, doesn't it? For me, it makes good sense to put one in there for the cost saving of a bit of flex cabling. But I can see why people wouldn't do it. And I can't say I've never, ever done it like that myself in the past before because I have.
Yeah, I think we all have. I think for me also is that if we're honest, the only reason not to install a CPC is because we haven't got the right cable. And I don't think that's a good enough reason to say, oh, I'm going to ignore it then. Yeah, listen, we can all agree the chances of anyone getting hurt from that is almost non-existent. It's ridiculous. But if we're also honest, the only reason we're installing a 2-coil earth instead of a 3-coil earth is because that's what we've got. And that's not necessarily the right argument.
Obviously, the point to the argument was, it was on Twitter, wasn't it, this particular argument?
Yeah, it was oversleeving the CPC to use that as a switch line conductor as well.
So someone had the right cable. And unfortunately, it was like a rock and a hard place, wasn't it? Because we've just had this conversation and we've come up with a regulation. We've said this is what we think. So the regulation says you have to have a CPC. That's it. Black and white. You can't argue with that. But at the same time, we've gone, well, in the real world, it's happened. 10 years ago, the regulation was different, or whenever it changed, 15 years, whatever, as you pointed out, Neil. But the argument was ridiculous because you've got someone going, you must have a CPC, blah, 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 blah. And the other person going, get on the fucking tools, mate. You ain't got a clue what you're talking about. And there was no there was no real common ground to be found, and that was annoying. And it's still something that's going on now. I think actually still
Yeah, it
piping
probably
up.
is. Yeah, but it becomes when people are worried about their stand and making sure that their stand, that where they are on the position of the argument, is not putting their reputation at risk. And I get that. I think we've probably all been guilty of maybe flogging an argument too hard because we feel like we're maybe being embarrassed. But I can see both sides of the argument, and equally, I wouldn't fall out with both sides of the argument. You know what I mean? Would I cry about if I didn't see a CPC there? I'd go. But strictly speaking, as Mark said, it's a C3 really, because it could be improved, because the regulations say it could be improved. This is what we would install to. But
now, if you got to this job, so if you work on site, something that I know you don't do so much anymore, Neil, but you did, and you get there and you're in exactly the same situation. You've got a 3-car cable, but you need a permanent live and a switch live. To rewire it is a day's work if someone's wired it in wrong. Are you rewiring it, or are you going to use the 3-car the way it was used in this typical situation here?
That is a great question.
Neil would rewire it because it's a day's work and it's more money.
Yeah, but take that away.
I'm trying to take the question as it's meant.
I would say it's going to cost you now. One of your blokes has got it wrong. So
I'll take the question as it meant. I think it's a good challenging question. I would probably speak to the homeowner. These are the 2 options. What would you like to do? These are the implications. And try and give them as much information as possible for them to make an informed decision. We all know they're going to go, just put a bit of brand tape on the earth, mate. And then I wouldn't fall out with doing that. Short of, it would take something really extreme for me not to consider that. Like it would be like, maybe there's some, I don't even know it. The chances of me not doing that are quite slim. I would quite happily put brown sleeve on the earth, note it on the regulations that I've considered it, and it's the works to put it as per BS 7671 2020 is a bit ridiculous. So look, this is how we've attacked it.
Yeah, I think that's a really honest answer, and I think that's what most people would do. I'd like to think most competent electricians, the first thing they're going to do is go, right, what effort we've got to rewire this now. And if it's an outside photo, so it could be behind the brickwork, but not through into the house, and just running behind brickwork in a void or something. It could be a right absolute pain, bricked in, and whatever. That's what my most recent on-site work was. All the stuff was bricked in, and to change it would have been removing bricks, probably taking down half the wall to change the cable that would have been put in. So honestly, what we're going to do, if we could get round it that way, again, you're not budging it really. You're interpreting what you think safe is class 2.
But it's also about being honest with the client and saying, look, these are the options, and giving them information going, look, it's really a nothing. You ain't got nothing to worry about. I'm not cutting the corners, but this is strictly what regulation says. But look, trust me, I've done this for 20 years. You ain't got nothing to worry about.
Yeah. I had this long conversation earlier. Have we got time for this? Have we got time for a long tenant conversation?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Let's wrap this up, and then we'll bring it up next week, shall we?
We'll bring it up next week. Do we want to talk 2 minutes on tools? I know Mark's got a tool with him. I must have.
I have.
Go on, talk to me.
I've got a good one. Do you want to see it?
Yes.
Well, that would help, because how this works, Mark, this is YouTube, right? And honestly, people will actually watch things. Honestly.
It really worried me when he said
Mark's got really stubby fingers.
Show us your finger again. Hang on. No. Put that down. Show us your finger.
Look at that.
Next week, competition is guess the length of Mark's finger.
You should have actually put this out earlier when we was talking about premature collapse.
I didn't. This is a good tool for that.
What is it?
So this is the DeWalt cable stapler. So you can fire in cables to clip your cabling up for wooden joists.
Looks like an incredible bit of kit. They've done a staple to cover premature collapse.
They have.
Okay.
So it has a plastic.
So now it's a game changer.
Yeah, it has a plastic coating over the staple, which is fire rated. And that's just to protect the cables you clip in, so they're not going to scar them or damage them. You can You can stack a couple of cables together. It won't fire and damage the cable at all. It has to be sat in the middle of the groove before it'll release the staple. I've tried to actually punch through cables on purpose. Not been able to do it. It's really, really solid piece of kit. If you're first fixing new build, this saves ages.
This is not an expensive big kit either for what it is it?
No, it's about 100 quid or so, I think.
But how much are the staples?
Oh.
How much are the staples? Because it's only DeWalt staples, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only about 16 quid for a box of 200. I think that rings a bell.
60 quid?
16.
Oh, I was going to say.
116. I'm guessing that's what.
So 16 quid for 200. How much would 200 clips cost you with a hammer? Because that's that is the such the.
Cost you about a quid, won't it?
There's different value there, man.
Oh, yeah, listen, we
your
know
labour
that.
saving. This is just up, bang, done.
Yeah,
next.
I would 100% have one of them. If I had a company, everyone would have one because it saves time. Fortunately, when you're working on site and they go
a day on a first fit on a new build, Mark, that's paid for.
Can't hear you, Neil.
Yeah.
Your mic's gone.
Can't hear you.
Obviously gone too long.
It's paid for itself in a day of use. It's a no-brainer.
I've got one. So from now on, for the next sort of 4 or 5 episodes, I'm just going to go to my testing bag because I've got a swanky testing bag. I've got to do a YouTube video on it. But
He loves his testing bag. He buys stuff and he just loves it so much.
Who knows what they are? Mark, you know what these are. I know you know what these are.
The lamp testers. So you put them in pendants and.
My camera's backwards, isn't it? It's backwards. Anyway, Q-Tech. So I've got hold of these. 70 quid I think I paid for these. If you don't know what they are, it's an assortment. They go into lamp holders for your testing.
Yeah.
So your probes go into there. There we go. That goes into your bayonet cap or your screw cap, or you've got everything. You've got small Edison screw, small bayonet, GU10, and bayonet and Edison screw normal. And it's so quick. You just go that in, you put your earth on, you're away. Brilliant bit of kit, 70 quid. You can't really go wrong with that, can you?
No, it's a good bit of kit, that. Very good bit of kit.
Why's your microphone gone quiet again?
I ain't got a clue, mate. I'm going to send it back because I'm not happy about it.
I don't think it's your microphone. I think it's your amp.
Yeah, I think it might be. I get a bit of static in my earphones and all.
It's picked up there. It's picked up.
Yeah, I've turned it right up full. It went up full earlier, but people don't care about that.
Yeah, so mine would be these. Mine would be these. These are a game changer for me. For stripping any sort of cable that's not SWA, even like Cat 5, the whole lot, telephone cable, the lot, brilliant.
SWA.
Anything other than SWA. These are a game changer. I love them.
Where's your Marco now?
You don't have to have a go, Neil, because we know you ain't got nothing apart from a tape measure
And a broken microphone.
There we go.
Probably size 14 foot. Where
did we go? Where did we start? We've run out of time.
The one thing DeWalt never done was a massive big Makita bag. You know what I mean? They've never done that for their tools, have they?
I think they have.
What should I get?
I've never seen one.
I don't even work.
Well, it's one thing, Neil, so let's get one thing. What are we talking?
Get one thing.
If I had one thing from here, right, I'm not really funny. Doing what I do in the industrial commercial.
A pen.
Impact driver.
Yeah, a pen. Oh, yeah, why are we getting an impact out? When did you use
the impact driver? Why are you laughing?
Ain't got a battery in it, mate.
Stop rubbing your goatee every time you laugh. It just shows how happy you are about my unhappiness.
I feel like at your level, Neil, at your level of directorship, you should be on the Varby tools now. Directors turn up in a Range Rover with a pack of Varby.
You're getting the wrong tools. Anyone who buys DeWalt don't know about tools. End of story.
Apart from there's 3 of us here, who'll work on the tools with DeWalt.
There goes half the subscribers straight away.
The one geezer that doesn't work on the tools has gone Makita. And I'll be honest, they look like you've nicked them off someone.
You don't understand. You don't understand. You buy DeWalt because it's trendy. Listen, DeWalt is heavier than any other tool.
How can you argue that? How can you argue that with Makita bag next to you? You're telling me Makita is, everyone has Makita. When I started as an apprentice.
Because it's the best thing for the task.
When I started as an apprentice, everyone had Makita. And all I'd see, every time you go on site, you put your battery on charge and someone would just nick it. So I'm going to get DeWalt. I'll just get DeWalt. No one's got DeWalt. Now everyone's got DeWalt. But no one's got Makita anymore.
I feel like battery theft has gone down on site. But mind you, I haven't been on site for ages.
Yeah, yours has.
Yeah, no one's knocked Rick for a couple of weeks now, so no batteries.
That's my setup over there. Got all my.
To be honest, Sam, you want to be careful of your batteries, mate.
Yeah.
I'm on my way round, Sam. What have you got for me over there?
Listen, let's wrap this up. I'll tell you what, it's been. I've really enjoyed it. I think we've covered some interesting points. But listen, as always, if you've got anything to disagree about, please comment. Please school us. We want to. This is a journey for us. We want to learn. So we don't know it all. We've tackled some challenging subjects today in terms of fire alarms, and it's definitely not my skill set. So yeah, no, please don't take anything as absolute gospel. Do the work yourself. And if no one's got anything to add,
he didn't.
See you later.
Obviously, hold on. What we should have done and what we don't do at the start of every single
There's lots
episode.
we should have done at this podcast. Rick.
Yeah, and we start next time. From next week, we're starting. We're going to subscribe at the beginning. Please subscribe. Please comment. Please like. Please share.
Yeah, because everyone listens to that. Everyone goes, oh, yeah, because Rick said it. I'll do
They
it.
definitely don't listen an hour and a half later. But if we get them in the first minute.
But if you are in the 10% that's still listening, just, you know what, whack on the bell, do all that rubbish that makes
perhaps we should do the
Rick get
competition
excited.
now. A dedicated listener would win the competition now. We drop it an hour and a half episode in.
I'm surprised they haven't really done the last one. It was at least an hour into it, and it was like, there's about what Joe Robinson training has been measuring his own head. Do you know what? Joe Robinson, you've got to publish your actual head size. Now you know what my head is. I want to see how long your head is.
I thought I would go stop talking about heads. It's in my head. It's playing weird.
Oh, you started it. Right, come and say goodbye, everyone. See you later, everyone. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.
Bye.